Hey y'all, welcome to my very first YouTube video ever. I know I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna fumble and tumble and mumble over my words, and I'm gonna mess up, but that's okay. So here goes. As you can tell by the title of the video, my family and I are moving to Mexico, and it is quite the life change. And I wanted to invite everyone to watch how it goes and to come along with us because it's going to be interesting to say the least. So I guess I should let you know the reason why we're moving. So my husband, for those of you who don't know, is from Mexico. We've been together for 8 years. I am a legal U.S. citizen. He is not. For 8 years, we have been in and out of, immigration attorneys' offices. We've done countless hours of research, talked to countless people who have been through the same thing or are trying to go through the same thing. Talked to several different immigration lawyers, spent countless hours and dollars trying to get his status switched from illegal to legal, trying to do everything right, trying to follow all the rules. He doesn't drive because he doesn't have a driver's license. I do all the driving. He pays more than his fair share of taxes. Matter of fact, he's paid taxes ever since he's been here from day one. We only got his tax ID number a couple of years ago, which means up until a couple of years ago, he would pay in taxes but could not get a tax return. So he would just pay in and pay in and pay in and would never get anything back. Finally, a couple of years ago, we were able to get his tax ID number so we could finally start getting tax returns. And I just want to for those of you there's so many people that think, well, if they're illegal, they don't pay taxes. No, they do. Matter of fact, most illegals do pay taxes, and most of them can't even get tax returns. So that money is just being poured into the government, and it's not going back to them. So many people think that illegals are on welfare and stuff. We're not on welfare. We're not on welfare, food stamps, WIC, TANF, whatever all of them are. We don't even go to our local food bank. He provides everything for my family. We're not on Sooner Care or any of that kind of stuff. So not on any government assistance. We pay taxes. We're legally married. We have legal U.S. citizen children. We own our own business, our own LLC, and we employ other people. So we're helping other people too. We're a small business. We're buying our own home, keep up with insurance, all that stuff, follow all the rules, do everything that, that asset to a community is supposed to do everything that someone trying to get their papers, everything that the immigration lawyers have told us to do. We followed all the rules, went above and beyond. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't go out partying. We just work, home, church, work, home, church. That's really about all we do. We go fishing sometimes. So anyway, so you know the background of where we're coming from. 8 years, and our immigration system is so broken. We were never able to get his legal papers. So on July 13th, over a month ago, we were coming home from work. I, of course, was driving, and I saw some construction going on at a local sod farm just 5 minutes from my house. And it's a commercial business. It's a construction dumpster. I thought, hey, let's go see if they'll let us have some of the scraps out of their dumpster so that I could build a raised bed garden because I love gardening. And so we pull up there, and I was like, hey, let's see if we can find somebody to ask permission so we don't get in trouble, because that's what you're supposed to do, because we're trying to follow all the rules. And 30 seconds after we got there, a gentleman in a red truck pulls up, and I use the term gentleman loosely. He pulls up, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, hey, can you give us permission to get some of these scraps out of the dumpster? And he's like, no, get out of here. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, sir. And so Bird hears this, and here comes Bird, and he goes and gets in the truck because he was also looking for someone. There was trucks and vehicles and tractors and stuff all over the place. And so anyway, he comes and gets in the truck. And as soon as this man saw my husband, I don't know if it was because of the color of his skin or what his issue was, but as soon as he saw my husband, he threw a fit and he started dropping F-bombs and cussing like crazy and, oh, you ain't going nowhere. I got something for you. And he goes to his truck and reaches in to grab something. I thought he was getting a gun and my heart sank. But thank God it wasn't a gun. It was his cell phone. He pulls it out. He takes a picture of my license plate. He asked me my name. And I was thinking I could talk this guy down because we didn't do anything wrong. We weren't disrespectful. We did everything. We weren't stealing anything. It's not public property. It's commercial property, but still. Anyway, so I'm trying to talk the guy down. He calls the police. He calls the county sheriff and tells them that we're stealing stuff and we're trespassing and we're just causing all kinds of ruckus and problems. And that's when I realized I can't talk him down, so let's just go. He tried to block me in, but I wiggled around him and was able to leave, and he followed us. And of course I wasn't speeding or anything. I was following all the rules just like I'm supposed to do. And the police finally caught up with us and they pulled me over. Of course I pull over and I have my license and insurance ready, and I give it to them, and they asked me to step out of the truck. And so they asked me what happened, and I told them everything just like I told y'all. And then they go talk to the other guy for like 20 minutes, like 2 trucks down and over, and I had no idea what they were saying. I just heard a bunch of yelling and cussing. And so they come back and they ask for my husband's ID, even though I was the one driving. And so we're obedient and respectful, and we give him my husband's ID, and they run his ID through the system, and they come back and they say, well, Jennifer, you can go, but your husband's going to jail because he has a warrant out for his arrest. And of course I was like, what's the warrant for? Because he doesn't do anything wrong. We follow all the rules. And he said, well, it's for a DUI from 4 years ago that he never went and took care of. And I was like, sir, you got to have the wrong guy. You must have the wrong guy. There's a mistake somewhere, because my husband does not drive. He's never had a DUI, and he sure as heck didn't have a DUI and then not take care of it and got a warrant out. And he told me, and I quote, well, his name and birth date are close enough, so we're taking him in. Close enough. It wasn't even his name. It was misspelled, and the birthday was 12 days off. Knowing his legal status and that we've been in this process for 8 years and still have not gotten through it, knowing that even if he did have papers, if you tick off the immigration or you do something wrong, they can revoke your papers anyway if you're not at citizen status. There's so many different levels of a legal status here. And so if you just have temporary or permanent residency, they can you mess up and they can take that away. We hadn't even reached that level yet. So I knew it was a huge possibility that I might not see my husband again on this side of the border. And so I said, can I at least tell him goodbye? And he said, nope, and shoved him in the truck and told me to leave. 2 of my daughters were in the truck with us, and my youngest, my 6-year-old, was asleep. My almost 10-year-old, it was 2 weeks before her birthday, my almost 10-year-old saw the whole thing, and she's crying and shaking, and she's panicking and freaking out. So, I get in the truck. First thing I do, I call my pastor, I call my mom, and I call my few really close friends and let them know, you need to pray right now. This is what's going on. So I take my 2 youngest kids to my mother, who had my oldest daughter, and I rush up to the jail, and they would not let me in. They would not let me see him. After several phone calls, I finally got them to look at the mugshot from the 2016 DUI. Because I was telling them, this is not my husband. You have the wrong guy. And so they pull up the mugshot from 2016, and they said, oh yeah, obviously this is not your husband. It was not my husband. He showed the picture to my husband, and my husband recognized who it was. It's somebody that he knew from years ago, somebody that he actually grew up with in Mexico. Excuse me. So I told him, and they checked his ID, and they said, the other guy tried to use your husband's name, misspelled it, and got the birthday wrong. And I was like, well, so let him go then, since it's obviously not him. Somebody else used his name. Can y'all let him go? I'm right out here. I'll pick him up right now. I'll pay whatever you want me to pay. And they said, well, the judge has to make that call. Even though it wasn't him. Even though someone else used his name. Even though the name of the birthday didn't even match completely. Even though all these things, They still could not let him go. And so court was the next day. The judge did dismiss all the charges. The judge told my husband, you need to get a lawyer, you need to press charges, because this guy's out there, trying to screw you over and using your name and your birth date. And look what happened. And so the judge released him from Bryan County. But the night before, the night that he got in there, the night before court, immigration called and found out he was in there. And it didn't matter if he really did it or not. It didn't matter if somebody else used his name or not. What mattered is we had not been able to complete the process. Sorry, there's a mosquito in my room. It's Oklahoma. Of course there's a mosquito in here. Anyway, so what mattered is we had not been able to complete the process, and that he was in jail for a bad thing, even though it wasn't him that did it. And so immigration put a hold on him. And so Bryan County could not let him go. 2 days later, immigration picks him up. And through this whole time, I wasn't allowed to see him. I wasn't allowed to give him money. I wasn't allowed to bring him his ID. I couldn't even bring him his Bible. Nothing. And he wasn't on the list because the judge dismissed all the charges. So he wasn't on the list for Bryan County. So I couldn't even call him. I had to wait for him to call me collect or to use someone else's account to call me. Anyway, so immigration picked him up and they took him here and there and there, and then finally took him to Mexico. They had him in custody for over 40 hours. For 2 days, immigration had him in custody and did not feed him at all. They gave him 1 bottle of water. 2 days they had him in their custody, immigration did. 1 bottle of water, no food, that's it. So, wouldn't let me call him or anything. They were supposed to let him call me when he got to Dallas. No phone call. And so next time I hear from my husband, he is in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. And so he was, after 2 days of no food, 1 bottle of water, he was dumped on the other side of the border, 2,000 miles from his home, from where he grew up in Mexico. No charger, no phone charger, no battery on his phone, no money, no ID, no bus ticket, nothing. Just dumped him over there. When they were walking from the bus, my husband and all the other guys that were getting deported, when they were walking, the Mexican military, had to escort them from the bus to the Mexican immigration. On the way in, even with the Mexican military there, I don't know if the Mexican military, if some of the guys were in on it. I don't know how. I don't know what the details. But 5 of the people that were with my husband on that bus got kidnapped by the cartel. I know that God was protecting my husband, because that very well could have been my husband. A perfect stranger on that bus. I don't know if it was an angel. I don't know if it was just God working through somebody, but a perfect stranger on that bus befriended my husband, and he bought him a phone charger. He bought him something to drink. He gave him 10 pesos, and he bought him a bus ticket to Monterrey, which was about 6 hours from the Mexican border, from where he was, just to get him away from the dangerous border. And that man very well could have saved my husband's life. The reason that man had to buy him a ticket is because my husband didn't have money, and I could not send him money because my husband didn't have his ID. In order to pick up the money over there, you have to have a proper ID. And so at least, this man was able to get him away from the border and save his life. Then they parted ways. The man wouldn't, give his information, because I told my husband, I was like, get his information so I can send him money and tell him thank you. And he refused to receive anything. So I'm very thankful to that man. And if this man's ever watching this video, I want you to know how incredibly grateful we are. So then I was able to buy him a ticket and give him the confirmation number, and he could pick up his ticket that way. And through a dear friend of mine who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, we're finally able to get someone that we trust to Bird, that we can send, so I could send money to this other person and they can give the money to Bird. And so it took him like 4 days to get home after he was dropped off on the other side of the border. And And then, so he's home with his parents now, in the jungles of Mexico. When I say jungles, I mean he's got a grass roof and sticks for walls and dirt floor, and the kitchen's just open. And washing clothes in buckets outside, and I mean it's the real deal down there in the jungle. And for those of you that know me, have spent time with me, I always call my husband, he's my Tarzan, my Mexican Tarzan, because he grew up in the jungle. Okay, so my husband's deported. Immigration said, despite everything that we've done and been working on for 8 years, they said we cannot even ask permission to start the process again for at least 20 more years. There is a 20-year ban on my husband even trying to apply for any kind of papers to come back over here. So we're left with 3 choices. 1, I can stay here and raise my girls as a single mom and raise them without their dad. I could do that. Have my family separated for 20 years. 2, we could just bring them back illegally, right? You would not believe how many people told me just bring them back. I'll pay. We'll get them back over here. Besides the fact that it's incredibly dangerous to do that in the first place. Secondly, it's wrong. And for a mistake he made 10 years ago, we're going through all this now. And he knows it was wrong. He'd be the first to tell you, hey, I'm sorry for trespassing and crossing into your land illegally. Anybody that knows my husband, they know his heart. And he felt awful for it. But by this time, he had a wife, he had kids. He was so convicted in his heart for being here illegally. He couldn't fix it. But what is he supposed to do? Leave his wife and kids? So it's a really tough position to be in. Because we want to do the right thing. But we also want to keep our family together. And we always thought there was hope. That one day he would get his papers. We just keep doing the right thing. Keep doing right. And eventually we'll be able to get the papers we needed. But it didn't happen. Also, I know that if God still wanted him here and wanted my family here, that he would have still been here. The fact that we followed all the rules and he still got deported. When there's people out there doing a lot of bad things and not following the rules and they're still here. The fact that we did all the rules, how much more careful could we have been? And he still got deported. That just shows me, because I know God could have stopped that at any time. But to me, it's very obvious that God wants us in Mexico now. So my third option is to move myself and my children to Mexico with my husband. Now we've always had a heart for Mexico. 3 years ago, we both believed that God spoke to our heart and told us that we were going to be in Mexico one day, just loving on people for Jesus, making a difference, just loving people. We thought that it was going to be, at least 10 or 15 years. We thought it was going to be, way in the future sometime. But apparently, now's the time. And God's timing is perfect, so I have to trust him and I have to trust his timing. So, yeah. So we're moving to Mexico. We are, our business. I can't run the business without him. He's a roofer. He's the backbone of our business. There's a little bit of remodeling and construction that I can do. But I can't, it's nothing like what Bird can do. So I can't even keep my business running without him. So anyway, I plan on making videos about our journey and as we go along and the process. And then of course, once we get to Mexico, I mean, a big old white girl thrown in the middle of the Mexican jungle with the toucans and the iguanas and the monkeys. Ew, and the spiders. Yeah, so you're all invited and you're very welcome to come along with us on this journey and see how it goes and see what happens when, a white mom and her 3 little girls are thrown into the Mexican jungle and have to get used to living without all these, the American comforts that we're used to. So, yeah, Okay, keep my family in your prayers, and thank you for watching.